Hey everyone, it's Erin Floto here, and I have for you today a lot of spreads that have failed for me over the last year and a half that I have in this immediate thing. If I went back further, you would see a lot more spreads that didn't work for me, but I have from August 2017 here, and so I am just going to go right on in and show you some spreads that didn't work. Now, I want to add a caveat to this that some of these things worked at some points in my life and haven't worked at others, and some things that haven't worked for me may work for you. So that's what I love about bullet journaling. It's so unique to your experience, how you're living it right now, that some of these things that may not have worked in the past may work as I'm currently using my bullet journal now. So it really is depending on your life in that moment. So a lot of these things I just hated, but some of these things were really just kind of dependent on my life at that point in time. So the first thing I want to show you with my little Hedwig sticky notes is this getting things done mentality. So I use this spread sparingly, but the way it was set up, I didn't really like. The concept wasn't really working for me because of how I sectioned it off. I much prefer now to do these just kind of master task lists, and I think that would help a lot more, but this was also part of my annual spread. So me having just general tasks as my annual spreads does not work. I have learned that many times over the years, that task lists in the front of my bullet journal do not work at all. And you'll see that repeated in some of these other notebooks. So that's why that didn't work for me. The next spread is part 1 and 2, is this vertical habit tracker. I can't do it. I just can't. And also doing these color coding situations in my life, how it works right now, it's not happening. I like to stick with the couple colors that I have for that theme, but having these multiple colors for sectioning off different aspects of my life isn't really, I don't want to carry all those pens. I don't want to have to worry about getting the right pen in the right spot. It just doesn't work. And then the vertical tracking, for some reason, I actually did fairly well this month. I got to the 26th of that month, but obviously I did not complete it for the rest of the month, even though I did do some of those things. So vertical trackers, just in my experience, have never really worked for me. I like the individual trackers, but then again, those haven't worked for me either during some months because of whatever situation is going on in my life. I did like this sleep vertical tracker though. That worked pretty well. Again, my workout trackers in bullet journaling have never really fit so much because I want to track more than I'm able to track in my bullet journal without wasting too much space. I like to have 6 months to a bullet journal. So if I were to track everything I wanted to track, meal planning, logging my meals, logging my workouts, what my heart rate was, all that kind of stuff, for my workouts, it just never seems to work out. And I tried to do this vertical style, again, not a good solution, and then add in some of the calorie goals that I had for those days in and out, and the calorie goal, again, obviously didn't work at all because I only got to the 10th of that month, and the rest of that month I put hate this. So obviously I was not feeling it for actually, I've never felt this type of layout. The next thing that has never worked for me is tracking my water intake. When I do it as these headers, I've gotten about halfway through the day, and I've marked halfway through the day, but then I've never completed those habit trackers, or the water trackers, I should say. And then doing these time logs, because a lot of the things I just really want to dump everything in my day onto a task list, and then doing it with a time log has never really quite worked out well. I like the thought process of it, but for me, I just like to put a lot of tasks down at the beginning of the day and not have to worry about when I want to do them. So those are two things from this spread that have never really worked. So I think I'm on number 3. And this is going to say 10 spreads that have failed me. It's going to be more. So 10 plus spreads that have failed me. Again, doing anything in the front of my bullet journal. This in particular didn't really work for me because I was feuding with Instagram for the longest time during the first 6 months of 2018. And I couldn't figure out the platform. It kept changing because of all the algorithm changes. I couldn't keep up. I wasn't really understanding it. I wasn't growing that much on YouTube. So these spreads I hated. And then doing my, tracking my weight and body fat percentage. I much prefer to do that on a monthly basis with the rest of my measurements, my body measurements. Because I mean, weight and body fat percentage don't really give the full picture in my opinion. So never really worked for me. And just doing anything in the front of my bullet journal never has worked. The next one is my mood tracker, which for the record, this was the one that I was trying to emulate but get it down to one page. Was this two-page lettering style bullet journal mood tracker that you guys have seen multiple times over the years. I tried to do it in one page, and I really hate this tracker setup. Better luck next time. Again, one of the things that I want to encourage any newbies that are doing bullet journaling this year, if something doesn't work, just turn the page. Say better luck next time, and don't completely disregard a system that might help with your productivity. You just change it every time you don't feel like you're getting what you want out of it. So I wasn't getting what I needed out of this mood tracker. I really hated how it was set up. I couldn't do different lettering styles really because of how compact it was. So this didn't work for me. It might work for others. So again, this is something that every time you go from month to month, you can tweak things, you can change things to make it work for you. So this one is kind of more of a figurative one rather than like this particular tracker didn't work for me. This tracker would have worked for me if I participated in the challenge, I think. But one of the things that I find that I'm really bad about is saying, oh, this looks like a great challenge, let me do it. I do 2 days and then I stop. So one of the things that doesn't work for me is putting these types of trackers into my bullet journal, kind of knowing that I'm never really going to do this challenge. So it's not anything on this particular tracker itself. It's really more of the idea of the tracker. Like, I'm not doing the challenge, so I need to figure out from the beginning of the month if I'm doing it, because this was done kind of in the middle of month. So I had a couple days set up here, and this was for March, so it ended up going in at the end of March, and I set a bunch of weeks up in advance so that I could set up this page. So any trackers that just kind of get thrown into the middle of months, again, don't really work for me. It needs to be either at the beginning of the month or in the beginning of my notebook, and then I don't use it in the beginning of my notebook either. So I need to find a better way to like tag these pages, I think, and then those types of spreads might work for me. But another thing that has failed in my whole bullet journaling life. The next one is tracking any sort of macros on my daily pages. It puts too much space, it takes up too much space. Doing any sort of workout tracking, like I said before, has not really worked. Having these little boxes just has not really worked. I'm usually good on Monday and Tuesday, and then the rest of the week is just gone. Absolutely gone. So again, working out, tracking my workouts, and tracking anything having to do with my wellness in my bullet journal, not the best thing for my bullet journal. Unless I wanted to fill out one every quarter, then it could possibly work, but that's just not what I'm okay with. I need to have it every 6 months. I like some sort of a structure in that regard, so doing that is not going to work for me. You'll see this multiple times in this notebook as well, this favorites page, or kind of highlights, reviews, things like that. I have it all set up, but I have not done it, and mostly because I want to do more doodling in here, but I don't know if it's a concept I'm scared of, or if I never really take the time to just like doodle in my bullet journal. So having a spread where I intend to do doodling does not work, at least for me. It might for others, it doesn't for me. And along those same lines, doodle challenge. Again, this is somewhat similar to the Meet the Maker challenge that I showed you before, and the last spread that I showed you, where I intend to do this challenge, but I kind of want to do it in theory, maybe not do it every single day, but have it set up for every single day. Again, not really working for me. I also had a really hard time because the grays were different. So this was more of a blue gray, this was a gray gray, and the color difference was throwing me off quite a bit, and I just didn't want to finish. Lists. List. Okay, lists don't work until that one day that I want them to work, and I can show you in this notebook. They don't work until I decide in December that I wanted to get an idea of what I needed to put in for the next bullet journal, so then I started to use it. So lists about trends and YouTube ideas and things like that, these brain dump type of pages. Like I said in my 2019 setup, my goal this time is to have like a monthly task on my master task list to go back and look at all those things and get an idea. But just having random pages of trends in here or ideas doesn't work for me unless I have something on my daily or my monthly to tell me, hey, go back and look at those things if they are in different parts of the notebook. So this in particular is in the back of the notebook. Some of them are in the front of the notebook. If I don't have a task to tell me to go there, I won't go there. So task lists in general like that don't really work for me. All right, so someone gave me the idea of doing an expense tracker. I decided to do an expense tracker in regards to my business expenses rather than my expenses in general. This is something that I have done a video of 10 types of financial spreads. I haven't instituted any of them because I've never really found something that I thought I would go back to or anything like that. Even after doing that video that was supposed to basically inspire me to do something like that, I've just never really quite figured out how to make that happen. So expense trackers in general, and I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with just because of it's finances. No one really wants to think about their finances that much. So I think it's just the thing that we're tracking is not something that is the best. But I always felt that way about cleaning as well until I made this circular tracker. So I need to find something that will work for me for expenses that is just kind of a little bit more innovative. And then I think maybe I'll use it because that's what happened with the cleaning tracker. So fingers crossed for that one. But expense trackers, financial trackers like that have never worked for me. This is along the same lines of the Meet the Maker. USF season also went downhill during that time, but having lists in the middle of my month, again, just this is when the USF season started, but it goes on until November. So from September to November, I am not going to flip back into my September monthlies to do this. If I want to do a tracker like this, it needs to either be tagged in some way. Maybe I need to do like a little washi bookmark thing or something like that, or every time there's a USF game, I put a task on my daily saying, go back to my task list. But then I'm only going back to fill it out for fun. So what's the point in that? So one of those things where I need to like find a way to put this in my bullet journal where it's not hidden, I guess, is kind of the thing. And that was the same thing with the Meet the Maker challenge. Again, these highlight pages or like the monthly favorites or whatever, I usually have a couple things that I put on there and then I'm just like, I can't think of anything else, and then I'll finish doodling later. So this page, and in November, I was like, oh, I know one thing that I can put down, but then I never went back and looked at other things that I could doodle in here. So doodling highlight pages, gosh, I need to get better at them because I love the idea of them, but I would need to schedule some time at the end of the month to really reflect on the month, and I'm not great at that. So that's why those have never worked for me. But I do know that these types of pages will work for a lot of people, and it really is fun going back and seeing in a month what happened to you, you know? I love going back and seeing, I think this was, no, it wasn't this one. I love going back to April and seeing this. Currently, I am doing all these things. I would love to make sure that I have a page for this every single month that is bright, that is fun, that has even just like the most simple of doodles. I would love to have a page like this every month. I just need to have some discipline. I guess that's my biggest problem. I don't have any discipline for myself, and I don't take time to do something for myself, like just taking the time to reflect on the month to doodle. So again, those pages have never really worked for me. I really want them to, though. And then this Happy Mail page. Tracking my Happy Mail coming is terrible. I can't do it. I can't do it. And then doing it so short with my going for my business wasn't going to work because I need to kind of track the process. Like I'm printing and cutting, I'm packaging, I am shipping, blah, 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 and have like some dates associated with it. But doing it this skinny wasn't going to work. And then this is how I started my master list of projects. And the one that I am currently doing in January is working out much better because I finally kind of figured out a highlighting situation that is working for me. If I can flip to it. Because these, I was putting them as bullets, but I wasn't marking anything off, really. I marked 2 things off. 1.5 things off, even though I did more things on this list. And this was only really work related, whereas I wanted a master list of tasks for everything, not just for projects. So having my Tombow to basically highlight off my list, that works much better for me. So those are 10 plus spreads that haven't worked for me. So why did I want to do this video? First of all, someone in the comments told me to do that, and I will have that comment up here, and thank you for suggesting that, because I thought that was a really fun concept, because you guys see me make all these things, but you're not always seeing me fill out every single spread that I've done in my bullet journal, and sometimes it's because I don't fill them out. I make them, and I think they're great conceptually, but I don't fill them out. So one of the things that I wanted to do, particularly I wanted to do this at the beginning of the year while a lot of people were starting this bullet journaling process, I really just wanted you guys to see that even someone that's been doing this for years, even someone that has a lot of followers on Instagram or whatever, and shows these incomplete spreads on Instagram, sometimes those just don't get completed because conceptually they seem like a great idea, but they don't always work for that person's life and circumstance at that particular time. Like I said, some of these things have worked for me in the past. You can take the highlight reel, for example. It worked in April of 2018, but it didn't work at all during the end of this year because I was much more stressed. I wasn't taking time for myself to work on my self-care, and doodling is one of the ways I do that. So I wasn't really taking that time to really reflect on the happy things in my life. Maybe if I did that at the beginning of the month, it might be better. I don't know. So that's the thing. Like, you always kind of second guess yourself and think and find little ways to tweak it. Maybe if I did my highlight reel in the beginning of the month, I could doodle whenever that thing happens, or while I have time during that month, not necessarily at the end of the month when I want to complete that page for whatever, for Instagram, for myself, whatever I want to complete it for. So those are like good examples, in my opinion, of things that may work at some points but don't work at others. So I want to encourage you, despite what you've seen here, that a lot of things have failed, more often than not, things have worked for me. So you just really have to tweak and adjust and find things that work for you in that point in time in your life. So I hope that this type of video helps you when you're having those little beginning bullet journal jitters and things like that. And I really want to encourage you, despite whatever perfectionist mentality you have in your life, or if you're like me and have an OCD mentality, bullet journaling has actually helped me. And I shouldn't say OCD mentality, it's an actual disorder that I have. So I struggle with OCD and anxiety, but bullet journaling has actually helped me with that, because I have learned to turn the page to something new versus just stay stuck on that page and toss out an entire bullet journal because of that one page. So I really want to encourage you guys to turn the page. If you need to, get some adhesive tape in your life, permanent adhesive, glue pages together and turn the page. If that will help you get on to the next thing, I highly encourage that. So if you're struggling at all, I just want to encourage you guys to persevere, find what works for you. If bullet journaling doesn't work for you, that's okay too. Like I said, bullet journaling has not worked for me in terms of my workouts and self-care and things like that. That's why I have an entire Erin Condren life planner to just work on my wellness. It helps me concentrate on that versus throwing it in with all my tasks and things like that. So again, find what works for you. I hope this video helps in terms of finding what works for you and coming to terms with the everyday life of bullet journaling. So if you like this type of video, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I will see you later. Bye, everyone.